This is Rosetta Wood from Daily Spark. Welcome to another episode of Daily Spark. Today on our show, we have Amir Haimove. Amir is a cognitive development therapist, Miller Method. Currently, he is a Ph.D. candidate at ICDL, Program for Infants and Early Childhood Mental Health and Development Disabilities. In addition, he is currently holding a BA in Special Education and Psychology from the Open University in Israel and a diploma in Community Work for Herzing College in Toronto. His area of expertise is in education, child development, and public speaking. During the past 10 years, Amir has worked with children with developmental disorders. He has knowledge and experience with verbal and nonverbal children, communication, and social skills at all ages. Amir's contact information is www.cdc-hub.com. Today on our podcast, Amir will share with us ways to understand children on the autism spectrum, how to create social and communication opportunities for children with disabilities, the difference between applied behavior therapy, ABA, and the Miller method for development issues. Hi, Amir. I wanted to interview you on this podcast so you can discuss this awesome knowledge about cognitive development. But before we jump into it, tell us how you started your career as a cognitive development therapist.
Well, I had the privilege 15 years ago to meet a very interesting person named Dr. Arnold Miller. Actually, he was the owner of LCDC Center in Boston. He worked with children with autism and learning disabilities and ADHD, and he created the method that was called the Miller method. My interest in that method came from the need of children with special needs around the area where I grew up. I noticed that a lot of people from my area, teachers and therapists, are not aware of how to deal with kids with disabilities. And that is something that was very close to my heart, to teach a child that seems out of a place, not ordinary, to help him to be part of the society, but also to be able to teach the teachers how to preserve and to see that child.
Okay, now you said to preserve and treat the child. What are some of the suggestions that you give to teachers and parents on how to teach their child with autism?
Well, the first thing that I teach them is don't look at the diagnostic. Mm-hmm. If your child has a label of autism or learning disability or ADHD, don't look at that child as a child with ADHD or autism. Look at him as a child that sees the world in a different way that we see it. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we see, even as neurotypical children, we see the world around us in different ways. Mm-hmm. And if you have teenagers, you know exactly what I'm talking about, that every small thing is bigger things to another person.
Mm-hmm. Now, what visions did you have for yourself when you first started teaching cognitive development?
I wanted to be the voice of kids that are not understood correctly. To be the person that if there is a problem or any kind of a different way that a child can learn to help the child to learn in the manner that he knows best. And during my 15 years of experience working with kids, I've utilized that method, the Miller method, by teaching kids math by water guns or putting Jenga blocks together and teaching them how to read. Or putting hula hoops around the floor or dancing just to know the ABC. Mm-hmm. All of those things some teachers don't feel comfortable because we are sometimes feel more secure and more confident using books. But the problem is that kids need more creative teaching and much more problem solving, and a teacher who is a leader in his surrounding.
Now, you mentioned creative teaching. Is the Miller method creative teaching?
The Miller method by itself is using the need of the child to help him learn. And not only learning in the academia, not only in the school, but also how to body awareness, body organization, social interaction, and communication. Mm-hmm. So, for example, a child who is 4 years old sometimes will miss a step of communication when a baby that is 2 years old can point and the mother will tell him the word and he will relate that pointing to the word and then adapt that word to know that that object is called a bottle, for example. Mm-hmm. A child with autism won't do that, and sometimes that gap is what is missing. So the Miller method will find if a child needs help in one step and try to fix that step that is missing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes a child that in school can sit for a long time, so our classes won't be sitting for a long time. Our classes, if a child likes cymbals and like to hit the drums or use music, we will teach him when to use music, and we will utilize that need to teach him letters, social interaction, and all of the other things that other methods might use to oppress from the child's needs.
Okay. Now, what struggles have you encountered using the Miller method of teaching?
Well, the first thing was actually that people don't like to think outside of the box so much, because everything that is outside of the box seems strange to everyone at first. Mm-hmm. People prefer to use regular methods and to use methods that shows instant results. Mm-hmm. The problem is that instant results miss the mark. A child that we teach him right away to sit, we might miss another problem that he has or a need, and then we are hurting the child, and that is missing the point of education.
Okay. Do you think the government and parents are getting the proper support to use the Miller method of teaching?
The issue is that at this point of time, parents actually pay for this program. The issue is that the government doesn't recognize the Miller method because the lobbyists of the ABA, the behavioral therapy, is much stronger, even though that a lot of other people don't believe in that method as much. They believe that we need to be creative in our education. We need to teach our kids in other ways. To teach a child by giving him a reward every time doesn't work.
Okay, so what would you suggest that a parent do or a professional educator do with the child of autistic?
To learn the child needs, and also to see where the child has his strengths. Don't think about what is your need. If your need right now is to teach elementary mathematics, algebra, 2 plus 2, or things like that, and you see that child as a child that only be able to do lower work, that is the first thing that we need to fix. We need to believe that every child can do everything if he is in that school. And we need to find a way how to teach him. We need to have the understanding that we should not give up on any child, no matter how much needs or help he needs. If a child has a learning disability and we need to repeat everything 50 times, we should be able, and I really hope that also in the US and Canada, we have enough teachers that believe that we need to continue working and to repeat and to learn new ways to teach children.
Now, you seem very knowledgeable in your area with teaching children that are artistic. How do you measure your success right now?
I think that the cognitive development approach has a lot of work in front of her, because we are actually doing something that is very hard, changing the minds of others on paradigms that other people have used for 30, 40 years and saw the success in different ways. I think it's very hard, but people who are coming to the development approach or coming to other ways of education seems to be much more happier, and their child is learning much better. So I think it's a struggle, but I think it's we are in a good spot right now.
Okay. Well, I have a question. What is the next new thing that you feel that parents should be learning at the present time if they have a child with learning disabilities or learning concerns?
I think that they should love their kid, and I think that they should not see that learning disability or ADHD as something that will cripple their lives of a child or the parents. I think that a lot of parents are seeing that issue of learning disability as only the part of the end. They don't see the advantages. There are a lot of famous people in the world that were with learning disability. Albert Einstein had learning disability. A lot of presidents in the U.S. had learning disability or didn't know how to read. There is a very famous professor, Professor Shore, that he is autistic, and he had his issues and his fights. And I'm sure that his parents didn't give up on him and didn't see first the diagnostic. We need first to see the person who is in front of us and to look on on the people's strengths and abilities and how to encourage them and not how to tell them that they can't do something.
I agree with you. So many professionals are so judgmental, especially teachers. I'm going to say professional teachers. They want to be so judgmental about a student once they enter into the classroom. But they need to understand that that child has just as much as right to be in the classroom and learn and given the proper knowledge and education as the quote unquote normal child does.
Yes, the problem that people want, teacher especially, want the neurotypical kid, the child that has no problem. We can explain to him one time and he will know all the material right away. But that is not our society. It's not how real life works. A teacher needs to learn the child IP just so he will know what to expect. So, for example, if I work in a classroom and I have a child with a sensory issue, that everything in the class is, if I will put a lot of things on the blackboard, it will be too much for him and he won't concentrate, and I read it on the IEP, I should take down a lot of things from my blackboard to accommodate him. If I have a child who has a hearing aid, I should be accommodating to him too. As we need to be understanding and mindful to the fact that in 30 kids in a classroom, we need actually to be mindful for all of the 30 kids. It's a very daunting position to be in, but I think that we have taken ourselves the job of a teacher not for the pay and not because it's easy. It's because it's challenging and because we love the hard work.
Yes, and you have to have a passion for this type of work.
That's right.
Yes. Now, what extra skills do you need when teaching children with developmental disabilities?
Well, that is a very interesting question, because I think that a lot of things that we need to do, and I'm going to specify only three. The first one is to be a creative teacher. If we're all learning from the Nelson book, and I'm sure that most of your listeners have saw the book is very condensed with his material in one page. For a child with learning disabilities, it's very harmful because he can't concentrate. So we need to be creative on the way that we are teaching the child and how to modify that page. And also, we need to know how to create a safer environment, how to create games that will be interactive for the kids. That is another point that we need to understand. Today's kids are actually going with an iPad, with an iPhone, with a lot of technology with them that actually makes them in a very high energy level, and they want to have satisfaction right away. And that is the problem in the classroom. A child needs to wait 5 minutes, and those 5 minutes are making him very sleepy because of that. The other thing is to be a problem solver. A teacher needs to know how to solve problems that might be minor to neurotypical kids, but for a child with learning disabilities, it's much more harder to solve. If it's from social aspects, for example, how to go into a game, how to be calm in a game, all of those things are very hard for children with special needs. Also, if in academic, how to modify pages, how to be creative in the way that you're giving the material. The third thing is how to be a leader in the classroom. Teachers should not be only the leaders of the classroom by standing in the middle and expecting the full attention of the students. They need to learn how to be the three types of leaders that we all know. The leader that stands in front of the classroom, the leader that gives information to one kid, and that kid is the leader of that group, and how to work, and the third leader that use teamwork as the type of leadership. Those kind of three things are essential for better education.
Okay. Do you agree with working with a child at their level? I mean, when I say at their level, I mean, if they're like on the floor working with a puzzle, or do you go down to their level where you have eye-to-eye contact? Do you feel that's important?
I think it's important, but to remember that you are also in a classroom. So there is a boundary when we're talking about being in an eye level with the kid. If the child is silly, in front of a class of 30 kids, I'm not going to be on the floor being silly with him. But I am going to utilize his tantrum or use the tools that I have to make sure that that child will calm himself down and we can do our work, and we will do it in his level. So, for example, if a child is throwing things around, I might even put a lot of balls in the classroom and say, okay, you know what, let's play. We all play the ball right now, and we will change a little bit the lesson plan. So, for example, if I'm teaching how to multiply, I will give him red balls, and I'll tell him that he's in charge of the one chart, and I will be with green balls, and I will be in charge of the other chart, and we will combine as a game for doing something else. But I would still not be in his eye level, but at least I'm utilizing his tantrum to make sure that he will be part of the class and making him more of an active role in the classroom, that he won't go lost in the system.
Okay. Now, would this be a repetitive approach?
Well, it will be a repetitive approach, because the child, sometimes the child with a tantrum in the classroom, it's for two things. One, because he's bored, and maybe we need to learn how to change our lesson plan so it will be much more effective for that child. And I believe that if a child is bored, we need to look at what we can change. Second of all, maybe the child, the material is too hard for him, and he doesn't know how to tell us, I don't know the material. So it's our job to find a solution, and we need to be able to go to the teachers, the other teachers of the classroom, to go to the parents, and to ask what works with the child, and what doesn't work.
Yeah. Would you ask the parent what works at home?
Yes, because I believe that I can tell you that a lot of teachers will not ask that kind of a question, because they will be, they will think, oh my God, the parent will say to me, don't you know how to do your job? But I think that we need to be part of a team, teachers, parents, and students. That is a very important team that we all need to be part of.
When you have a difficult student, do you find it necessary sometimes to go into the home and see how their daily schedule is?
Well, by law, we are not allowed to do that. So, but what I can tell you is that we are listening to the parents, and they tell us what happens at home, and we rely on what they tell us.
Okay. And do you find that helpful?
Yes, that is very helpful, and sometimes it gives us much more clear picture about what we need to do. Because sometimes we just need to tell them, maybe the child needs to sleep 6 hours a day, or maybe on Sundays, don't let him go to bed at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and give him an early nap time at 2 o'clock. So it will help him, and we will try together as a team.
Okay. Yeah, teamwork is very important when it comes to children that have disabilities. What about the gross motor development in children with disabilities? Do you have any special items you would like to share that you use with our audience, or?
Yes, the Miller method actually works above the ground. We have an elevated structure that we use that works with kids, and then the child is in our eye level, and we work with him, and he can't escape. He actually on a structure that we are using to our advantage, and we have 4 stations, and the child can go from one station to another, and we do work there. And after a while, we take him down from that structure, and he can use a chair, a table, or even a carpet. We don't tell the child, you need to work on around the table, because that is what is expected of you. We believe that if a child needs to move, we let him move, but also give him the expectation that he also needs to sit.
Do you use a timer for this?
No, we don't use a timer. No.
Okay.
We can see by how the child moves what he needs.
Mm-hmm.
If he's a verbal child, he will tell you what he needs.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we need to be mindful to the idea that he is a child and sometimes he won't do his work because he doesn't want to do his work, not because he has any issues.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting. Now, you seem so knowledgeable in the area, in your field. How do you measure your success right now?
Well, I measure it by looking at what the kids are doing. So, for example, I can tell you that 2 years ago, I started to work with a child who was 4 years old, nonverbal, and I worked with him for a year and a half. And after that time, he started to use words. And he used to do ABA, and after I worked with him on the alphabet structure. I have taught him how to blow a candle and how to blow a whistle and how to use verbal cues for what he needs, and he started to say words.
Mm-hmm.
So success is the problem with success in the development approach is that it takes time. It's not right away,
Mm-hmm.
and it happens because we follow the structure of the child need. So a child if we will take the ABA for example,
Mm-hmm.
a child can learn very quickly that if he wants a candy, he needs to do what he's told. So for example, I had a child that before he came to me, he would bang his head on the table every time that the teacher assistant will pass him. And after a while, they asked the mother what happened, and she told them that every time that the child is banging his head, he will get a cookie to stop.
Oh.
And they noticed that every time that the educational assistant is passing by with cookies,
Mm-hmm.
that is the time that the child is banging his head.
Wow.
So instead of saying, okay, that I need a cookie, he will use the sign that he knows.
Mm.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
So that is one of the things in the difference between ABA and Miller method, that we use the child needs and not what we need. If a child wants to have a cookie, we will teach him a sign of a cookie.
Okay.
Not a sign language, but gestures.
Mm-hmm.
And from there we go to a language base.
Okay. Okay. Without giving any names, what has been your most successful case in using the Miller method teaching?
I had a little girl in kindergarten, and she couldn't eat anything. She couldn't put anything in her mouth.
Sensory issues.
Well, everyone thought that,
Mm-hmm.
and actually she didn't know how to operate her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
What is the process of doing anything? And I don't want to discuss, it's a little bit a scrawny little girl that you can see like 8 kilos,
Mm-hmm.
little girl, like that seems that didn't eat anything. Her mother could only give her porridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I've taught her how to eat. I've started with her on small things on the alphabet structure, and she learned how to even to prepare her own snack. And then she learned how to eat, and she ate by herself. And of course, one of the things that as a teacher, you prepare all the lesson plan, and then at the end, she's doing it in 2 seconds, and you don't need it even.
Wow.
I prepared pictures on the order of how to prepare the snack.
Mm-hmm.
We did it a couple of times in the room. She went outside. Lunchtime, she did it by herself.
Wow, that's amazing. And how long did it take for that to come to a completion? Her feeding herself?
Well, it took me almost 3 weeks. But my session with her is once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that the OT and speech therapist were with her for 2 years, and they use reward system, and it didn't work. I used moving around the room and moving on the structure, and to use one station of the 4 to put something that she's scared of, to put something in her mouth, and the other 3 things that she knows that it's fun for her. So she will do it very quickly just to go to the other station that she knows that there is fun over there.
Oh, so you were teaching her how to think using her cognitive side of the brain.
Yes, and the other problem that she had was that you can give her a task and she will finish the task, but will keep on sitting at the table until someone will tell her what to do.
Oh, what to do next. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've taught her how to do all of those actions, and she would tell me what to do. And the parents, of course, complaining now that their kids is telling them what to do, and it's annoying them. But you can't be satisfied with the parents. It's hard.
Yes, you're right. Wow. That's very good information, and congratulations on your success with that little girl. I'm really amazed. Now, do you have any asks, requests, or suggestions of our audience? Or do you have any type of recommendations you can give to our audience?
Well, I have a couple of things. First of all, I would like to request maybe from parents to see your child as your child, not to take to your heart the diagnostic of your child. Sometimes, yes, it's scary to have a label that you don't understand or you feel that it's the end of the world. It's never the end of the world. You have a healthy child with an issue that you can surround yourself with professionals, with teachers that will care for your child like the child was their own. I would also recommend you to, when you sit down and decide what method to work with your child, do what is best for your child. If your child is a child that likes to move around, take him to a therapist that works with movement. If your child likes to paint, take him to a person that goes and paint. Find the key thing that your child can do and is the best in, and you can find the key to his heart.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Amir. And we thank you for all the information that you shared with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.